I used to feel a lot of shame about the fact that I didn't recognize the abuse that my husband was suffering, or that I was suffering under for so many years. That even though my husband had been talking ever since I met him about how his relationship with his parents wasn't great and how he had tried to fix it with them and they weren't willing to fix things and they were just blaming him for the whole problem, even though he was the only one making an effort to try to fix it. And I used to feel a lot of shame that it took me so long to really recognize that what he was saying was true. And I thought that it was mostly because I just was naive, or that I just missed obvious signs. But that's not actually true. My counselor gave me some good insight on this, and she says the biggest reason why you don't recognize abuse when it's happening, why it takes so long to recognize it for someone like me and someone like many of us who've experienced it, is that we can't fathom acting in those hurtful ways on purpose towards another person. When people have been abusing others for a long time, or even for a short time, but people who are abusive, they assume that everyone else is abusive. People who aren't abusive, who aren't deliberately abusive, who don't want to be abusive, they don't want to be abusive, and so they can't imagine someone else doing that on purpose to someone that they say they care about. And so part of it is that our brains are just different than the people who have been abusing us. And so we can't fathom that someone could do that deliberately. And I think that this is a really important thing that those of us who are in abusive relationships need to understand. Part of the denial, and part of why it takes so long sometimes to recognize what we've lived through and the horrible things that people have done and been abusive towards us with, is because our brains aren't abusive, and therefore we don't recognize that someone could, on purpose, like we make excuses for them because we can't imagine treating someone that way on purpose.